For the majority of the trials that we cover here on Law and Crime and Sidebar, usually everything remains relatively calm, but there are moments when that just doesn't happen. So we want to revisit some of these intense courtroom outbursts, and we're going to start with the trial of Scott Nelson. Scott Nelson was convicted of the murder of nanny Jennifer Fulford after he robbed a home out in Florida and then kidnapped her, and he admitted on the stand that he killed her so there wouldn't be a witness. Just such an evil, evil crime.
VD Beats. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Good, Paul. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll get started. Good morning, everyone. My name is John Von Paris, and I am the chairman of the MDTA Finance Committee. I hereby call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order at 9 a.m. In accordance with the live streaming law, this meeting will be conducted via video conference and is being live streamed on the MDTA Finance Committee webpage. All members will have their video active during the entirety of the meeting. To minimize background noise during the call, I would ask that everyone on the line please mute your phones except when speaking. I ask that those who are presenting or answering a question to please turn your video and audio on when speaking. When you are done, please turn your video off and put your audio on mute. There are no members of the public, no elected officials, and no media who have pre-registered to comment at this morning's meeting. At this time, we will begin with agenda item number 1, the approval of the minutes from September 14, 2023. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Motion to approve. Second.
Second, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We'll go to agenda item number 2, the update on the Canton Development Company. And Mr. Paul Barnes is representing Canton. Good morning once again, Mr. Barnes.
Good morning. Thank you for your time. I appreciate that.
Thank
With
you.
me here in the office is David Bortner. He will be giving some details and adding some extra color to the financial analysis later on in the presentation, and he'll be able to help me answer specific questions that any of the participants may have.
Great. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Good morning. Can you hear both of us okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, well, jumping on into the presentation, which I'm sure that you all have there in front of you. Of course, going to the second slide there, the presentation will cover 3 separate areas here, talking about Canton Development Company, Canton Railroad Company, and Free State Logistics Services. Going on to slide 3, let's go ahead and start with a discussion about the Canton Development Company. CDC is a holding company owned 100% by the MDTA, which I'm sure everybody at the call is familiar with that. Canton Development was acquired in 1987 by the MDTA to preserve rail access to the Secret Marine Terminal, which was in the process of being developed. The development company owns Canton Railroad and also Free State Logistics, which are both wholly owned subsidiaries. Going on to the next slide. The financial results for 2022. The revenue for that last year was $4.5 million. There was a other loss of $7,000 and a tax provision of negative $436,000, leading to a net profit of $263,000 overall for the entire holding company. And by the way, through the presentation, if anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to raise your hand or speak out, and we'll be happy to answer them as we go along. Going on to the next couple slides, particularly talking about Canton Railroad Company. The Canton Railroad Company has 5 locomotives, 22 employees. We operate over 16 miles of rail, all the way from the interchange at Bayview Yard with Norfolk Southern and CSX, going down to the edge of Secret Marine Terminal. We don't actually operate onto the Marine Terminal. We provide trackage rights for CSX to access the Marine Terminal, but we also interface with 26 customers. 3 of those are some of the larger terminal warehouses in the area that serve the port. Of course, one of them is Terminal Corp, the other B&E Storage, and the third is Ruckert Marine Terminal. Excuse me. And those 26 customers provide a very diverse book of business for the Canton Railroad. We handle everything from lumber, forest products, metal, petroleum products, building products, and chemicals. Our 2022 carloads were 4,732, and our 2022 revenue was $3.7 million. Moving on to slide 7, we have 4 targets that we are looking to pursue and continue this next calendar year through the rest of this year. We are hoping to acquire the remainder of Penn Mary Yard from CSX, which is estimated to cost around $1.75 million. We're also looking to implement track improvements related to Penn Mary Yard, supporting the Howard Street Tunnel enlargement, which I'm sure most of the people on the call are familiar with. And we are also looking to complete an operating agreement with CSX to handle traffic for CSX within the Baltimore terminal, covering all the way over to Dundalk Marine Terminal, over to the Sparrows Point operation over there, and continue to enhance the productivity going to Seagirt. One thing we actually did acquire already was the Kane Street property. That happened within the last couple of weeks. We acquired that from MDTA for new customer development. It's about a 9-acre site over here between Kane Street and I-95. It's probably the last greenfield site in the city of Baltimore. It's a great location, and it's a very good site for economic development. Moving on to the next slide, slide 8. You'll see that we applied for a CRISI grant this past year. We applied for the grant in December of 2022. However, we were not awarded a grant this year. The grant was applied for to be up to $7 million to replace worn track and 28 switches. And the Canton was prepared to pony up a match of about $1.5 million in support of that initiative. We are exploring the possibility of applying for another CRISI grant here in the next couple of months when the next round is open for application. Going on to slide 9, you'll see our financial performance in detail here. Right now, our total cash is about $4.4 million. You see it broken down there according to the Canton Development, the Canton Railroad, and Free State Logistics. We have about $3.2 million in our investments accounts. And the total cash and investments is about $7.7 million. Any questions on the details on that slide?
Go ahead, Member Rose.
Quick question. So for the CRISI grant, actually, I had a question on that, not on the balance sheet.
Okay.
That's not now. Yeah. So my question just related to the CRISI grant is, sounds like so we're going to apply again, but if we don't get it, does that mean we won't be funding the work in a different way, and do we have to wait for at some point getting a grant?
Well, that's a great question. As the railroad stands now, we are in a state of good repair, so we're able to safely and efficiently handle, CSX trains going to Seagirt. But the funds from the CRISI grant would improve even more the operation of the yard infrastructure to support the traffic there. So if we don't get the CRISI grant for 2024. We will certainly have to explore other possibilities. Of course, we're always looking for other possibilities to seek funding to help support our infrastructure improvements.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, my concern was the safety aspect of this. That was from an oversight standpoint. I want to stay in my lane, but that was it sounds like you just addressed that, Paul. So.
Yeah, and along those lines, I think that the latest number we have is 800 days operating injury free. So we're extremely safe. One of the safest short lines that I've seen. I've been in the short line side of things for many years. Um, we have an extremely, knock on wood, extremely good safety record with no issues.
Yeah, I guess specifically about the Warren track and 28 and issues on the, I guess, replace the Warren track and 28 switches. So
Correct.
we're safe. This
We are.
is something that's more of a, I know that we didn't receive the grant, but you're still working on another application for the grant. I know it's very competitive. I think out of 50 states, only 32 states received it. There's no guarantee on any of this funding. I guess, so my main issue there was the safety aspect. But the other question I had was, did we get any feedback on why we did not receive it? And I know you're relatively new to the position, right? So, I don't want to put you on the spot. You can always get back to us, but.
Yeah, we have reached out to the FRA to get feedback. We've not had a formal meeting with them yet. We hope to have that within the next couple of days to get specific feedback as to why we did not get the grant, so we can improve our consideration for next year. But as soon as we get that feedback, I'm happy to share that with the committee.
Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. Dave, do you have any additional information?
No, that's good. You covered it very well. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions before moving on to the next slide? Okay, moving on to slides 10 and 11, Free State Logistics Services. This is our subsidiary up in Hartford County. We serve the GE distribution center up there and Americold warehouse. Of course, the GE distribution center brings in white goods, appliances, major appliances, washers, dryers, refrigerators, etc. That business is actually growing. They've told me that they anticipate increasing the rail shipments out of Mexico next year to that facility. Americold has a big contract right now with Chick-fil-A to bring in frozen potatoes for French fries. And we're looking to increase the traffic going into there. We have 3 full-time employees in that operation, 2 locomotives, and the 2022 carload figure was about 5,500 carloads for 2022. The revenue for last year was about 800,000. Moving on to the next page, page 12. One of the initiatives that we have up there at Free State is we are partnering with one of the local sand producers up there, and they are looking to rail outbound sand starting at the end of 2024. And that would be an additional bit of traffic up there. They are acquiring the land themselves, so we don't have any involvement in that except for handling the rail traffic. And of course, making sure that the design is suitably designed for safe operation up there. And we are also pursuing the option of locating a transload site up there somewhere in the area. We've identified a former Martin Marietta site right up the road there. We are reaching out to them to see if there's an option to either lease or purchase that site for transload activity, which would add an additional revenue piece to the Free State Logistics operation.
When you refer to the transloading, you're referring to taking it from rail to like truck, or truck to rail, or both?
Both.
Okay.
And with the transit operation, we're looking at any and everything, any commodities that we could handle efficiently by rail, and of course at the same time, do it profitably. Okay, then going on to, if there's no other questions about Free State, moving on to the last slide, slide 13. This references our ex officio director, Mr. Cox, William Cox. The Canton Development Corporation consists of 6 official directors with me serving on the executive committee as president of the organization. Mr. Cox serves as the ex officio member, which I mentioned previously. And of course, our bylaws require Mr. Cox's approval for certain actions. And you see there, Mr. Cox's perspectives. I'm not big on, tooting my own horn there. You can read what he said about me, and I certainly appreciate the comments there. As I mentioned before, we have a overall strategic plan to grow the business. We can't go anywhere but up, in my opinion. I've been beating the bushes, so to speak, reaching out to a lot of my former connections in the industry to leverage our connections and relationships to grow traffic for both Canton and Free State. And hopefully that'll bring much more volume and income to the bottom line when we get those initiatives in place. And of course, a brief background on me in case my bio wasn't previously circulated. I bring to the table over 30 years of supply chain management experience. I've worked for a Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3 rail carrier. And I also worked for a steamship line and an intermodal marketing company. So I bring a well-rounded background to the table there, and I'm hitting the ground running, leveraging my previous contacts to help grow the business down here on the Canton Railroad. And look forward to working with you all in the future to make that happen.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on Member Cox. I think he's done a great job as the representative of the board on the Canton board, and he certainly keeps the board advised of as needed. And he's got a lot of talent, and he's a good fit there for sure.
I agree. And then one other last comment, if I could, and I don't know if this would be the appropriate audience. I'm certainly glad to talk to MDOT and other state officials. In my 30 years experience, I worked in North Carolina and Pennsylvania. Both of those states have very robust freight rail programs, especially compared to Maryland. Freight rail is a key component in economic development, in my opinion. I'm hoping that we can get something improved here in the state of Maryland to increase that potential and visibility for freight rail here in the state, and would really appreciate your all's help with that, at least in terms when it comes time for references for Christie grants or other grants.
Okay.
With that, I appreciate your time. Appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. Dave, did you have anything else to contribute?
No.
I don't know if Deb, do you have any comments at this point?
Let me yield to Member Carroll first, and then if you don't mind circling back to me.
Oh,
Thanks,
sorry.
Deb.
I'm sorry,
worries.
Member Carroll. I apologize.
No, no worries. Paul, welcome aboard, and
Thank you.
and thank you for that background. Just a question about the strategic plan with regard to those possible acquisitions. Would those real estate transactions, those purchases, be leveraged, or would they be straight cash buys? Do you have any perspective on that?
We haven't gotten that far down that track, so to speak, yet to determine which path we'll take on that. We will certainly talk with our board and of course Member Cox, and then as soon as we determine which path would be the best, we feel we'll certainly reach out to you before we commit to either path.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the clarity.
Welcome.
So Member Von Paris and Member Carroll and Rosen and Arninger, my ask, and see if this is acceptable to you. The questions that you have regarding acquisition of land, whether or not it's going to be leveraged or utilize some of Canton's reserves to purchase it, the feedback on the Christie grant, I think is what it was called. Would it be acceptable to you that Paul provides that information to Member Cox, either directly or through one of their board meetings, and then Member Cox conveys that information to you?
short opinion.
I agree. I think it's a perfect way to get it to us.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. We'll be guided accordingly.
Okay. Any other questions or any discussion here on this matter on Canton? Okay. Paul and David, thank you. Yes, Deb.
Yeah, just last, to close this item out, for awareness in November, we will be bringing, in front of the full board, the selection of 2 new directors, as well as a recommendation for who should chair the board, of Canton. And I will bring that to you in November, for your approval and consideration. And then the annual stockholder meeting will be in December. And myself or someone else from MDTA will serve as your proxy to vote in those 2 new directors as well as the chairman. So I just share that with you for awareness, to kind of close the loop on Canton.
Okay. Thank you. And Paul and David, thank you for attending today. And good luck with your initiatives at Canton.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Take care. Have a good day.
You too. Thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 3, the CTP process and additions. Jennifer Stump is here to present. Good morning, Jennifer.
Good morning. For the record, I'm Jennifer Stump, the Assistant Capital Program Manager. Today, I'm presenting the Consolidated Transportation Program, CTP process and additions. This information was presented to the Capital Committee on October 5th and will be presented to the full board on October 26th. Each year, the Maryland Transportation Authority, MDTA, releases the draft CTP, which presents MDTA's ongoing and new capital projects for a 6-year rolling period. The draft CTP is presented to the board in June of each year for approval, and following that, it is presented to local elected officials and citizens throughout Maryland in the fall for review and comment. It is then revised and presented as the final CTP and presented to the board in November for approval to be part of the governor's budget to the Maryland General Assembly in January. Projects in the CTP are separated into 3 programs: the construction program, development and evaluation D&E program, and system preservation. The construction program and system preservation include ongoing projects and those scheduled to begin within the 6-year CTP. The D&E program is those major projects being prepared for possible future addition to the construction program. Currently, the only D&E project in MDTA CTP is the Tier 2 NEPA Bay Crossing Study. MDTA's capital projects originate from a variety of sources: long-range capital needs, inspection findings, regulatory compliance, increased capacity needs, and local priority letters or legislative requests. The long-range capital needs includes projects based on life cycle. The stakeholders annually review the usual life of facility components and estimate costs and timelines to rehabilitate or replace the components. The expected useful life of a component does not provide an exact rehabilitation or replacement date, but gives an idea of when the MDTA should begin planning and budgeting to address it. Inspection findings are used in tandem with life cycle estimates to confirm rehabilitation or replacement is necessary as scheduled, or to expedite a project when it is needed ahead of schedule. Inspections can reveal the opportunity for smaller scale repairs that can prevent a facility or component from degrading to the point of needing replacement via a larger, more expensive design bid build project. These small scope repairs can be diverted to on-call contracts, which are a critical part of the program approach to the system preservation. The remaining sources, regulatory compliance, capacity needs, and local priorities, make up a smaller proportion of the CTP. Regulatory compliance includes projects for EPA mandated stormwater management. Increased capacity needs are based on traffic forecast recommendations. Local priorities are established each year as counties are asked to submit a list of priorities for the state transportation system. Generally, priority letters include the concurrent signatures of legislative delegation representing that county. The fiscal year 2024 to 2029 final CTP will reflect the addition of 8 projects totaling $9.35 million as seen in Attachment A. The final CTP will also include the addition of $360 million in the allocated reserve in the 6-year CTP. The additional funding is needed to offset a double-digit rise in construction costs and increased needs related to aging infrastructure. It is anticipated that additional funding will be needed beyond the 6-year CTP to support projects that must be funded to maintain our assets before conditions deteriorate to a point where they will require more extensive and expensive rehabilitation projects. Those projects address needs before they present a risk to the asset performance, and they maintain our system in a good state of repair. The needs include full bridge replacements, bridge deck replacements and deck resurfacing, roadway resurfacings, bridge system preservation measures such as scour remediation and steel beam superstructure rehabilitation retrofits, other critical facility infrastructure renovations and rehabilitation such as roof replacements and tunnel switchgear replacement, safety needs directly affecting traveling public such as tunnel fire protection and on-call contracts to address critical needs on structures, roadway, electrical ITS features, drainage, and environmental features, and a toll replacement system, which includes lane, customer service center, and back office needs. Funding availability to budget for identified projects is based on MDTA's 6-year financial forecast, which considers estimates of traffic and revenue prepared annually, the operating budget and capital budget, debt service payments, the potential need for future bond sales and toll increases, and compliance with financial standards such as trust agreement covenant, debt service coverage, and unrestricted cash balance. Attachment A is a list of new projects that will be added to the fiscal year 2024-2029 MDTA capital program. They are replacement of the Bay Bridge North Ferry Slip, on-call facility building repairs, on-call signs, sign lights, and sign structures, the ICC and JFK data center hardware replacement, replace the Eastern Avenue Bridge over I-895, BHT facility-wide signing upgrades, rehabilitation of bearings and miscellaneous repairs on I-695 bridges over Bear Creek, and shoreline restoration at the FSK Police Headquarters. That concludes this presentation. If there's any questions.
Any questions from any of the members? Member Ardinger, do you have any questions?
No, Member Von Paris, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. I do have one question. It involves the inspections. We used to, I think in the past we had an inspection on an annual basis on some of the bridges or the bridges, and then, but I think the federal regulations require every 24 months. How does that work with the inspection process that we have to do for the CTP? Do we have to occasionally get other inspections, perform other inspections for in other words, to come up with the potential cost or anything? Does that make sense? You know what I'm trying to ask, the question I'm trying to ask. Maybe Deb could.
Jennifer, would you like me to
Sure.
start to answer this question?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Okay, so generally speaking, our inspection cycles are at a higher frequency than what's required at the federal level. And our trust agreement requires annual inspections. And so, and the annual inspections, they call them, generally there can be hands-on inspections, and they'll rotate. 1 year it's this has been our past practice, and I'm sorry if it's been retweaked a little bit, because there are adjustments based on what we find. But generally what we had been doing is visual inspections 1 year, hands-on inspections the subsequent year. Now, when we do visual inspections, there may be certain areas where we choose to do hands-on, and visual is, something what they're inspecting. I think it's, like 5 feet away from you, or some distance away from you, but you can clearly see it. The hands-on is you're so close to what you're inspecting, you can literally touch it. And then we also have cycles for when we do underwater inspections. And but OEC will adjust their inspections, that if they had a concern over certain area, or certain fracture critical area of a piece of infrastructure, they would make adjustments. If there were other areas, something's very new or very low risk, they may lighten the inspections a little bit. And we receive reports from independent engineers each year reporting on the conditions of our facilities, and that's our trust agreement requirement. In addition, there are other inspection requirements at the federal level that we will utilize the inspections we do for the trust to comply with as many as we can. But then, of course, we would do any other type of inspections that are required and use that to supplement the inspections that we do per the trust agreement. And based on that, we have averages, that they, like, all facilities do not have the hands-on in 1 year and the visual the next year, because the hands-on is more expensive. So they stagger them so that we can have some consistent estimates for inspection costs. And that's why we don't see the great fluctuations in costs year over year.
Thank you, Deb. That was very detailed. Thanks. Appreciate it.
And I can double check real fast. I'm almost positive that next month, let me just look for sure. Yes. I'm sorry, it's this month at October's board meeting, we have an agenda item that the inspection findings will be presented to the full board. That's an annual report out that we do. You'll see that in just a couple weeks.
Okay, thank you. All righty. Jennifer, thank you very much for your
Thank
presentation
you.
today.
And thank you, Deb.
Okay. That brings us to the end of the agenda items for today. I just wanted to say one thing before we close, before we adjourn. I wanted to thank those who gather up, present, or collect all the information, prepare for this meeting. Natalie, Selena, and all others. I know it looks, from my eyes, it looks, there's a lot of work behind the scenes here, and I know I speak for the others. It's you do a great job, and very much appreciate it and recognized. So thank you all for that. Okay, well, we've covered everything. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Okay. Second, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we stand adjourned. Thank you all very much. Have a good day.
Bye, everyone.
Everybody.
See you.